And now we're live.
All right, and now we're live. It's you and me, Pedro. What a great time it is to be alive. All right.
Exactly.
It's one of these. All right. So I'm in sunny London today. Where are you, buddy?
Sunny Lisbon, and it's actually sunny today. I'm not sure about tomorrow, but today is really sunny, which is
Sounds like
good.
my life. I'm not sure about tomorrow, but today seems fine.
Exactly. Tomorrow's another day.
Now I'm muting myself randomly.
So in London, I love London, but sunny London is quite rare, right? It rains, mostly rains.
Yeah, it's not doing much today. It's been a super interesting day. From a Canopy perspective, I went to visit the incubators or the incubators at City University today in London. And they have a venture studio and they have a social impact side. And we got a little tour from the president of City University, and we've got to talk about how they're fostering entrepreneurship at City, and really super interesting university, and sort of really relates and really speaks to the mission that we're on at Web Summit. And I know this is like a, AMA wise, it's a little bit different, but City University has about 20,000 students. And I think from what I took away today, 78% are from like BAME backgrounds. So it's super diverse. And a high majority of the students are first generation of their families in higher education. So a massive focus on social mobility, and also a direct line of sight because of the way they're funded and the way the origin story of City University, direct line of sight to really good jobs in the City of London itself. So amazing strengths in things like creativity, things like law, things like medicine, and so much going on there that I had no idea how City University focused. But what was super interesting was just this passion for entrepreneurship being a skill set, a key feature of every student's life, and working out how to kind of embed the entrepreneurial tool set and experience into every student's lifetime through going through the university as a way of building their future, which I thought was brilliant to hear.
Yeah, and this gives me the perfect opportunity to share something that is not new, but I think it's never too much to keep repeating it. I think there's a very old cliche that makes social impact a synonym of non-profit, and that I think that ruins the whole game. First, because it's not true, and secondly, because if it was true, it would withdraw a lot of potential from that area, because a lot of people want to be involved in non-profit activities, but a lot of people want to create business for profit. And you can ensure social impact and be profitable. You just have to find the proper way to do so. So it's amazing to see those initiatives that you just shared with us, because I'm sure they're not all for non-profit futures, or are they? The common struggling with connection. I can see you moving. Can you hear me? Hello, Stuart. Well, never a dull moment. And it's technology, and it's like real life, and in real life things like connections break. So let's wait for Stuart's return. I think he's in the spot that probably has having some connection issues, and probably his connection just went down. So we are this is a Ask Me Anything session that we do every month, so we can provide direct support by answering questions from members of our community. The support is being provided by members of our CxO in residence team, like Stuart and me. And so Stuart is restarting his connection. Probably be joining us in a few seconds for those that are attending the live session. It's quite awkward to be talking to a lot of people that you don't see. You know that they are there, but you can't see, and at the same time you are alone on the screen. A bit scary, but anyway, at Canopy, we try to provide a lot of support, as much support as we can, to the person, to the founder, and of course to the startup and the company, of course, also. But the main focus is the real people that are behind these incredible initiatives, that will together help co-create a better world, and using innovation and creativity and the ability to actually deliver um, results and impact in a very strong way. And as a community, we are here to support them, and actually to support you if you are listening to me. And so if you want to just join the webinar, there's a Q&A button, and you can put your questions directly, or you can do that using the, the thread of posts behind this video. We'll be answering all the questions that we'll be receiving. And one of the probably the biggest strength of our community is diversity. We are a group of individuals, regardless of all possible, I would say, labels, like gender, like age, like previous experiences, hard skills sets, or whatever other labels that exist. We actually exist to join all those different experiences and different abilities, and try to provide to all the members of our community the best support we can, either by sharing things we know, or networking, or directly supporting you on your questions, on your needs, on your challenges. Sharing, for example, sharing previous experiences, the way that we used to actually react um, to the same problems that we may have faced, and so this is no more than a group of individuals trying to help each other. And we have a strong belief that by adding efforts from everyone here, we'll be able to not exactly pave your way, because I think that's pretty much impossible, but at least to pave some of the bumps that you'll find in your way, and speed up your learning process, your learning curve, and of course the development of your idea and your project and your business and your company. And this is done regardless of if you are a first-time founder or a serial entrepreneur, if you are still on the stage deck or phase, or if you are already having paying customers. That's another dimension of our diversity. Not just on the In Residence team, but the entire community of all those, I would say, personas. Very experienced founders, very inexperienced yet founders, people that are developing their MVPs, people that are still trying to figure out what is the best way to formulate what they pretend to launch, and try to understand the problem they're trying to tackle with their solution, or the opportunity they're trying to explore with the idea, or service the product, or whatever you are trying to develop. And we're going to talk in a few seconds with Stuart once he shows up. He's having some problems, some tech problems, and we'll be talking about our program on Web Summit. So we'll be developing some initiatives around the Web Summit Week here in Lisbon. Utimcom was taking advantage to the fact that a lot of members of our community will be in Lisbon to attend the Web Summit event. And during that week, we are preparing some, I think, great initiatives, but you'll let us know by the end of them when they all finish. And today we're gonna start revealing some ideas, some things that we are actually developing. But more importantly, what are our goals? What are we trying to achieve by doing this? And always, please come, share ideas, share suggestions, share your needs, because we do this to support you and a nice word. I was telling that we're going to talk a bit about the things we are considering doing during Web Summit, not exactly revealing the details of all the initiatives, but probably most importantly, talking about why we are doing this and what are we trying to achieve by doing this. And of course, it's because the opportunity is having a lot of our community members here in Lisbon attending Web Summit, but I was sharing that we decided to create some initiatives of our own around the event, and and I was also sharing that diversity is definitely probably our biggest strength, and regardless of all types of labels, we try to cover them all, ignore not considering that they're relevant. So Web Summit is always crazy, right? It's
Are you getting
70K
excited
people,
yet? It's
something
only
like
two
that.
months away, right? It's pretty exciting. It feels
Counting
like
down.
a million years ago and only 5 seconds ago that it was last November and being there. And strangely, tomorrow actually, Pedro, I'm going to for Canopy. I'm going to a Slushed event in the UK, one of their first satellite events happening. And of course, Slushed is only a couple of weeks after Web Summit, so like November is the craziest time for big entrepreneurship events. But I agree with you. You know, the big message that we're really building upon in our Web Summit Week stuff is that there is strength in having a diverse community, and it really speaks to the origin story of Canopy. And Matt, if he's listening to this or watching this back, you know, it was his vision for looking around Boston and saying, there's an amazingly diverse group of people who are very entrepreneurial. They're in different walks of life doing different things, but actually they've got the same kind of DNA. And his vision for Canopy was, how do we bring those people together and put artists with politicians, with tech founders, with investors, with non-profit organizers, and take that DNA and then throw wicked problems at them and say, look, you are very smart people. How do you think about algorithmic discrimination? How do you think about homelessness in Boston? How do you think about diversity and empowering women into different roles in society and stuff? You know, what do you think about these difficult problems that are systemic and not getting fixed, and how would you apply your brains to it? And what we want to do is try and mirror into everything we do in Web Summit. There is strength in diversity of age, diversity of gender, diversity of opinion and backgrounds, and using the core piece, which is the DNA of people that build stuff. That DNA that says, I don't like it and I'm going to make it better, which is what is present in so many of the people within the Canopy community. So I'm excited to see the different ways we're matching that backwards and forwards over the week. And there's certainly the most people that have ever been involved in organizing and curating stuff for that week for us. Obviously, Web Summit is going to do what Web Summit does as well, which is going to be pretty epic all across Lisbon. And I'm just excited to meet as many people from across the community in one place and to see them meet each other as I am about anything else. You know, I love a demo night in person in Lisbon. I love the fact there's usually 35 to 50 different nationalities in the one room. I love the way people talk with each other and show respect for each other and enjoy each other's company. And I think we talked about this before, right? You know, my KPI in every demo night is what happens when it's finished. Like, and outside the idea spaces in Lisbon, you see 10 people, 20 people, 50 people just standing outside talking to each other. Like, there's no drinks, there's no pizza, there's no event going on. They just stood outside enjoying each other's company. And I think that's the magic of it, right? That very special time. So I'm hoping to see that happen all across the week.
And I wish we had like a magic one so we could quantify the post-event impact, because I know, and I'm sure of course you know also, there's a lot of things that happen because of that. Like I just met you, and we had like we left the building, stayed for having a conversation, and last in present event that we did here in May, I think it was, I don't remember,
March, my brother,
March, exactly, March. Like 2 weeks after I was having lunch with someone that I just met at the event, and that had a problem and I was having lunch with him and sharing some perspectives and how I dealt with it. That I used to face in my past. I faced something like that, and I was sharing my experiences. And it's amazing. It's someone that I like 2 weeks before I never imagined I would meet. And I'm sure this is not just me and him. This I'm sure it occurs a lot. Um, of course, it occurs also in digital events, in remote events, but there's nothing like the human touch thing, the
The
presence.
sim present thing is super important, and it sort of speaks to the main question that I get asked, which is a good one for today, which is why go to Web Summit? Like the people, and I mean a lot of people in the UK particularly have never heard of Web Summit, and that's people in startups and particularly scientific spin-outs and stuff. And I think a huge part of it is the energy of the in-person connections of that conference is like 27 conferences happening all at the same time. And the energy that goes with the serendipity, the meetups, the just chatting to people in that space is second to none. And in our field, right? And I would say, spiking your network as well as spiking your creativity through those kind of connections is some of the main reasons why I go, and treating it like a catalyst for the rest of the year, like a launch pad into the year. And that's certainly what we use it for, right? We baseline everything in Canopy during that Web Summit week. Even the In Residence team was born out of Web Summit last year. How we changed the demo nights was born out of our conversations during Web Summit last year. All this sort of stuff, like it's this amazing springboard. And it's because it's 27 conferences all at once, it's also very hard to get the most out of it because you can't be in everything and go to everything and meet everybody. So I think, but the inverse of that is also true, which is there's so much there that whatever you think you need for the next 12 months, I say go to Web Summit looking for it, making a really clear target list. There are these 3 investors I want to meet, these founders I want to meet because they've done something amazing, these people I want to get some help from because they're also going to be at the conference and I'd like to meet them. And you can do 6 months worth of networking, facilitation, finding stuff, learning stuff all in 1 week, which would probably be a very good second reason to come along. And I think the third reason I tell everybody anyway is that if you want to just go and spend a good week in a really nice place with really nice people, there are worse things you can do than go to Web Summit, right? Particularly if you're a startup founder or an investor or just really enjoy the vibe of entrepreneurship. Like it's a nice thing. Like Lisbon in November is a nice place to be, right? There are lots of parties if you like those things, but there's also a lot of quiet time and chill spaces and ability to just enjoy people's company, right? So yeah, I think the third reason is you can just have a good time.
I'm a lucky person because I attended all Web Summit events since they
You've
were
been
in Lisbon.
you've been to all of them? Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I'm a fan. What can I
Yeah.
do?
You drank the Kool-Aid,
It's
right?
it's amazing. It's on my previous life I never had time for anything until there was the first Web Summit in Lisbon, and I stayed like 3 days in a row outside the office. Just coming back by the evening to sign up papers or to close some important thing that needed to be closed, and that I think it was the first thing other than going on vacation that made me actually just stop going. 3 days in a row, no office.
Mm.
So just to give you an idea of the power of it to me. One of the things that I think it's interesting, but when we can do this before the event is how to prepare attending Web Summit, because it's not a science, of course, but it has some best practices. For example, I'm sharing just 2 or 3 just to give you an idea. You can't see all events. And so one of the things I do is first, you can't see all the speakers. It's impossible, and you need to understand the difference between the 3 halls and the arena. So you can do a lot of. I never do less than 18 kilometers per day, just moving from.
Absolutely. And do you know what? I'll even follow that up and I'll say, like, in your preparation for Web Summit, not only do you need to recognize that you can't see all the speakers, but even if you choose to watch everything you want to watch on YouTube afterwards, you still can't do it all.
Exactly.
You'll still be there at Christmas finding things that you want to watch. And even if you watch it at double speed, you'll still be churning through that content because it just generates so much, right? So in your question, like, how do you prepare for Web Summit? I think the number one thing we've got to say to everybody is to be clear about what you need to get out of it versus what you want to get out of it or what could just happen, right? And really triaging that day to say, okay, here's 2 things I must make happen, and here's the period of time I'm just going to let happen. and accept that at the end of that, you will not have seen everything that you might have. You will have missed out. But by saying to yourself, these are things I need, and you've definitely got it done, you've not got distracted by the chaos, right? There are so many corridors you walk down in your 18 kilometers, and you go, well, that looks interesting, and you go shiny thing over here, and before you know it, you spent 3 hours over there and you've got nothing over here, which is where you were heading, right, to see the US embassy or something, right? And you just not made it, and they've been pretty busy too, and they've not missed you because there's just too much going on, right?
I try to cook a recipe that has the following ingredients: speakers or things I want to listen, and that I think it's relevant to actually be attend live and don't wait for YouTube. Most of the things I see later, honestly. People I want to meet, places I want to go, like there are the stands, for the different companies that have their own, like the booth where you can go there. For a couple of years now, more than that, like 2016, 17, I don't remember. I was doing something that I really made sense, a lot of sense to me to do something with Salesforce on that specific service I was developing. So I went directly to the Salesforce stand that was on one of the halls, and I met the director of partnerships, and changed business cards, gave me a brief description of what I wanted, and booked a call for post event. And so things I want to see, people I want to meet, places I want to go. And then another thing, which is networking during and post event, because sometimes I decide I want to do this 2 hours networking period now, but the people I want to meet is busy attending something or talking to someone. So never forget that there is the pre and post event moments also. So depending on the things I'm looking for in the specific year, I try to find slots of time for all these different types of usage of time, because for example, I spend always some time seeing some things at the arena, the center stage, just because I think it's important for me to be there and listen there firsthand, but I don't spend much time in any other place. There's a great stage I always love to, when I can, I spend some minutes, which is Future Societies. I don't know if you like it also.
You see,
but
I know you're super curious about that stuff, right? So it's a great place to hear things you haven't heard before in a topic that you already know a lot about, right?
It's an inspiring place, low tech, but high inspiring. And so if you want to prepare your Web Summit event, it's define these type of things, and then try to manage time as best as you can, because it's impossible to see, like, honestly, like 10% of it. It's just seeing the alpha and the startups. It's impossible to see them all because they change every day.
Yeah, or to understand all of them if you did, right? It's too much. It's too much to comprehend. I think one of my top tips for any conference in getting ready for it is also to pre-book things with people. Now, I know you can do a lot through the app on Web Summit, but if you know somebody that you want to meet is going to be there, there's no reason why you can't reach out to them on LinkedIn beforehand and arrange a coffee or a chance to meet up specifically, and making 1 or 2 appointments like that every day to guarantee that you're actually making these things happen. It's really hard to get them to stick as well, because everybody's got chaos. It's chaos for you and chaos for them. So, you make it at the right time when it's not going to get too disrupted by other things. And I would do that to every conference. I will always have people that I already know I'm going to be having breakfast, lunch, and sometimes dinner with before I even attend the event. And that's pre-arranged, pre-confirmed, venues all sorted. I know what's going to happen. We've got each other's WhatsApp numbers. You're not going to get lost, right? And that's for me, that's the way I make sure I'm getting value from going to a conference, rather than just leaving it to chance during the week when it's happening.
Never have meals during meal breaks, because
I have meals during meal breaks. No, absolutely.
It's an amazing queue, so it's great for you to do other things. Don't stay in the queue. So take a 10 minutes break, define a 10 minutes break of your own, go with something, and during that 1 hour break for lunchtime, go visit a stand or talk to someone that you pre-arranged. That it's a complete waste of time to stay on on the long queue for 1 hour waiting for a hamburger or whatever. Don't do
Absolutely.
that. It's the worst thing possible is to have meals during mealtime.
What's the
I mean,
coolest thing that you've learned at Web Summit, Pedro, when you've been there? Anything you
well, it's
remember
impossible to
specifically?
say. It's impossible to say, but I remember a few things. One of them was the former ethical designer from Google explaining why, on his opinion, it was on Google's and Facebook's best interest to start changing the algorithms and offering alternative competitive content to their users.
No way.
Super interesting. Super interesting. It was like mind blowing. Like, wait, this guy has a point.
Yeah.
Okay. Another interesting thing was a couple of years ago, a very interesting talk between two guys. One of them was Gary Kasparov, the former chess player, and I used to play chess, so probably that made more sense for me to attend there because meeting sorry, Kaspersky, not Kasparov, Kasparov actually. And I was chatting to someone. It was about the difference between Western world and Asian world, especially China, for example, the importance of the individual versus the importance of the country, the community, and how that impacts, for example, things like privacy or the way they do business or the way they have and we have access to things. Super inspiring. Super.
Mm.
Now, after explaining, it's so simple, so obvious, but at, before listening to that was like, hey, this is something. This is really impactful. And well, I could say I was sharing it, but I had to think about more a bit more. But that is the type of things that I look for content wise, search for content wise, because all the rest you can there'll be everything will be on YouTube, and you won't be able to say you can't see half of it. Even if you make it a full-time job, it will
Mm.
last months until you see so many stages at the same time.
Yeah.
And
The other top tip that I give people when they're preparing is to think about the main program, but also to think about the fringe events and things. So obviously, Canopy stuff is a fringe event. We're not official, but I think we might be an official Night Summit event for the demo night this year. But there are on average 30 to 50 fringe things going on every night. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, not necessarily so much on the Monday, but Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 30 to 50 things, different parties, different places you could go. Some are invite only, some are on meetup.com, some are on Eventbrite. Some are super awesome, some are super tiny, some are absolutely ridiculously massive, like the startup grind party and stuff that happened last year. These things are huge. And then you've got the official Night Summit things that are happening and the stuff in Beato and all that stuff that's like more organized in conjunction with Web Summit itself. But you can get a lot of value as a visitor to Lisbon by going to some of these places that are a little bit off the beaten track, visiting things that are a little bit smaller or a little bit more specific to a local investor or a local incubator or something like that. And there's some amazing people to meet, right? So I would
last
say
year,
pick 2 or 3 things every night, try and get to all of them if you can, but make one your priority and the other 2 if you can make it, because maybe haven't got quite what you wanted out the first one.
last year, exactly during our demo night, on the same day, same hour, just at Eventbrite, there were 14 other events related to Web Summit
Yeah.
during the exact timing of our website, demo night, sorry. And of course, ours was the best, but I was interested in at least another 2.
Yeah. Me
So
too. Me too.
it's
It's crazy,
amazing.
right? And that's one of the reasons we try and organize our events to be like a network of networks that everybody's kind of combining to do that stuff, so that you all get value from each other being there and stuff. Another top tip I give people, and I'm doing this for the GCamp, giving a presentation to them in a couple of weeks' time about being ready for Web Summit Week. And one of the things I give advice on is making sure you give time to walk around the city, and not just to jump on the metro or jump in an Uber and kind of ignore where you are, because it's a beautiful, beautiful city with so much to give. And, think of it a bit like half tourism, half conference, but you want to make that opportunity to walk the streets, to feel the cobbles, to smell the air, to look at the river, to sit and take a coffee by the side of the road and enjoy a little conversation with more people who are maybe outside of the conference. But that to me is a deliberate part of people visiting Lisbon for Web Summit, is to make that opportunity happen. and to just see what life is like in Lisbon, because it's a great city to live in with real neighborhoods and real people and real stuff going on, right? It's not just a conference city, no matter how crazy it feels like during that week. Would you agree, Pedro? Do you think it's a good place to come and look around?
Definitely, and joke, partially joking and partially being real. If some Portuguese guys offer you some help, it's cultural. We like to do that. So some people find it weird, why are you helping me? Of course, some can be with bad intent, but it's quite common. We like to receive people, so it's quite common to, feel supported by locals, and definitely I would recommend you. And it's interesting because the event itself occurs on one of the most recent parts of the town by the river. But if you just go by the river, till Alcântara, for example, which is Belém actually is like the west part of Lisbon by the river. And you just keep by the river, you have so many things to do, so many things to see, so many incredible things. Of course, I have a bias because I live in Lisbon, so it's I'm not maybe I'm being just partial, but and eventually you can actually see, like, you can go to co-working spaces like Idea Spaces, for example, or you can visit places like the Beato, the area of the startup factory, that the unicorn factory that we're building here in Lisbon. So if you're just trying to see places around, the Portuguese startup ecosystem, there's a lot of places to go, a lot of places to visit, and you can do that on the surface. So you can you can sightsee and do some tourism, even if just to visit those places.
Absolutely. I think it's criminal if you come to Web Summit and all you see is the Phil, excuse me, and a couple of train stations and stuff. That would just be criminal. There's so much to see and do.
And they're crowded, so you won't see much. It's so super crowded that you won't see much.
Absolutely.
And, but that's it. And getting back to our program, I think what we're trying to do is actually the same thing, is creating some ideas, some initiatives that we'll share later that actually will make us deliver our mission, which is support founders, support ideas, support innovation, support, of course, the companies, the startups behind them that are executing those ideas and that energy, by bringing a lot of people from different origins or diversity. And I think we'll try to do the same thing with our events. Is many expressions of that, many ways of helping someone during Web Summit, by using our diversity and our abilities as human beings with experience or not, and at the same time focus on you, on the person that actually is in front of us. So we're trying to. So these tips, like, don't just use the tube, go on surface, go see, go sightsee, go see places. That's it. And
I mean, that brings us to a really good place. I mean, it's been a short and sort of interrupted edition today of why come to Web Summit and how to prepare, but I think it's super interesting. And I think what excuse me, we're going to be publishing 3 articles in the next few weeks about where to stay in Lisbon, great things to see, and how to prepare for Web Summit. And we can also give presentations to anybody who's interested. Happy to do another webinar where we'll take through like the formal guidance and stuff that we're giving to some of the visiting incubators and accelerators and people that are part of our programs and stuff. So excited, happy to share that as well. And of course, I think it's 6 or 7 people within the In Residence team are all local in Lisbon. And for anybody who's watching this, if you want some help to prepare, reach out to Pedro, reach out to Helga, Prabha, any of the others who are local, and set up a little session through the In Residence link. And I think it's up here somewhere. I think it's right. There we go.
Exactly.
And we'll all be happy to help make the most of it, because it's a strange phrase that I use when I'm giving the presentations, but for me, it's been an absolute blessing to be part of the ecosystem in Portugal and in Lisbon, and to spend so much time with amazing founders and stuff. And it's an absolute joy to share that with others and to bring them into the city and to let them have some of that joy as well. And whatever we can do to help people who are visiting, well, I think all of us will be very happy to do so, right, Pedro?
Definitely. And it's a very Portuguese thing, which is liking to have foreigners. Some places you actually feel like a foreigner, you don't belong there. They make you feel that way. I felt uncomfortable in some places, like One day I was in a place, I would say the town, which is awful. I asked for directions and the person answered me in the local language, and by the type of person, definitely could speak English, but he wanted to make clear that he was not going to help me. So he answered me in his local language, which of course I could not understand. And it's super interesting because as a country, Portugal, went abroad on the 15th century. Its whole history doesn't matter, but it's super interesting to see now. It's like a reverse movement. People, not just us going outside, but people like you, like in Portugal, and people like Prava or people like John, or so many others. Some are staying, some are just commuting between Portugal and other places, and that's what I think. It's like Web Summit is a bit of a epitome of that. Like we don't want. It's not being on the center of the world. That's not the idea. It's like promoting the gathering of so many different things, so many different people, so many different origins, and offer a place for people to feel well, feel right, and uh, and develop. And I truly believe in the better world is only to be co-created. We need to co-create a better world, and it depends on a lot of people. Um, Small fragments make a lot of things once you add them. And I used to have a sales guy that said, like small particles of bread are actually bread, so don't forget about it. And
Yeah.
that's it. And I think at Canopy we try to do the same. Not adding value to Web Summit, which I think would be too much to say, but doing our part, doing our share, adding value in the ways we can, and to those that come and visit us, and hopefully by the end of the event, they'll say, "Hey, I'm glad I met Canopy and I attended some of the events, and I had this great opportunity to solve this or to have this perspective or to meet that person or whatever that person is looking for." And what do you expect from website is it? Sort of, I know this is a long answer. We won't have time for that. But if you can like summarize, what would be a great website this year for you?
Well, for me, I guess the big part is reconnection, right? So I feel a great sense of grounding when I come back to Lisbon. My biggest grounding is when I go to the Dune de Cresmina in just near Cascais. That's where I really feel like I'm very centered. But to be back in the physical space, in the community, to reconnect with a lot of people who I haven't had a chance to see this year because I've only been in town a couple of times, that's massive. And it's a great convening of all those people where I might actually get to see a couple of hundred people that I haven't seen for a while, just because of all the energy and events and things going on. So I'm looking for that. I really am excited to see how the collaborations we've been working on for the last few months will play out. I'm incredibly excited to have an ambassador from a country which we will not talk about right now because we're going to announce it later, but coming and giving our opening remarks, because I think he's actually amazing, and the way he speaks in multilingually and entertaining ways and stuff. I'm really excited to see that happening, and I'm just really looking to share the joy of the whole experience with as many people as possible. So that's my goal of being there. On a professional note as well, like, this is a great fusion for me around I teach and I work with companies, and the lecturing piece, the academic in me, is also looking at areas to research off the back of the week. So I'll be kind of investigating a few things which will be turning into my research papers next year and the year after, and I'll be using it as a catalyst for that, because this formal research and the journey I'm on to try and do a PhD at the age of 50, which is kind of freaky for me, but really looking forward to it. And that's predicated on 4 published papers specific to do with deeper research in entrepreneurship. So if you're asking for my goal, Pedro, that's what I'm looking to achieve out of it.
You were, like mind blowing, and then you said PhD, and I was like, oh my God, congrats for the bravery.
Yeah. It's super cool, actually. The path which I never knew existed is to to be published 4 times and then to do an umbrella paper above the 4, and then you can receive a PhD by publication, which I didn't know was possible until a few months ago. So that's my goal. That's my professional objective over the next 3 years to achieve that. So Rui Falcao is actually my inspiration. So, you know, Rui published his thesis about how business angel investors make their decisions. And he did that in collaboration with an American university, and it's something I'm really looking forward to reading. But his story, as he shared it with me over breakfast a few months ago, and then he repeated some of the stuff in the interview we did recently in the Investor Circle, you know, it really kind of set me alight to the idea that you can be a little bit older doing a PhD, and actually it's a good step, right? So I'm going to give it a try.
And if you want to know more about Rui, just go to this YouTube page for the Investor Circle, and you can see him live, not live, actually recorded. I think it was on March, demo night, reverse pitch. And by the way, that's the same thing we're going to do this November. So our demo night this November will be around investment.
It will be, yeah, absolutely. But thank you for today, Pedro. Thank you to everybody who's watched this. You know, our whole questions today have been, why come to Web Summit and how do you prepare for it? And anybody who wants more information, get in touch with me or Pedro, or go to the In Residence link and book a chat with any of the people on there, but particularly the ones who are Lisbon based, because we're all going to be involved as much as possible in November, which is only 2 remote demo nights away. And then we will be convening in person in November. How insane is that, right? So next week is remote demo night. 4 weeks after that is October demo night, and then boom, here we are hanging out in Lisbon at Idea Space.
That's it. See you next month, or see you next week, depending if you're attending a demo nights.
And if I don't see you later, good evening and good night.